Good evening. There's a song we sing quite often. It says, years I lived in vanity and pride, caring not my Lord was crucified. And Solomon talks about vanity. Begins the book of Ecclesiastes with vanity and talks about vanity because he was a man who studied the subject and he learned about vanity. We realize then that Solomon was a man who was more than qualified to write on the subject of happiness and how that earthly happiness really is a vanity. There's nothing in this world that can truly make us happy and keep us happy. But he seeks to find happiness where it is and where it is to be found and pass that knowledge on to others. So Solomon possessed some unique qualifications for a thorough examination of the potential sources of happiness. Okay? Now these are potential sources. If you were going to look out into this world for happiness, here's what you might look for. He was qualified because he excelled in wisdom and knowledge, and a lot of people look for wisdom and knowledge as a source of happiness in this world. Philosophers do that. Of course, Solomon, we would consider him a Christian philosopher, even though he turned away from God for a large period of his life. He had incredible material wealth, according to 1 Kings chapter 4, verse 7, verse 21. So, hey, look in material things, having things, fill up those palaces and build more palaces and build stables and build, all this stuff. Maybe that would make you happy. He had boundless power. And I chose the word boundless rather than saying something like limitless, because he had a limit, didn't he? Death would be a limit. Death would be a limit to the power, the power that he had. So 1 Kings chapter 2, verse 25 and verse 31 talks about, all he had to do was say, I want that. He was going to get it. I want you to do this. And, somebody had better be doing it, or he had the power to take their lives. He had boundless opportunities for fleshly indulgence, because if you're the king, you get what you want. And you can read several times through the scriptures. I actually believe that in Genesis chapter 6, when it talks about the sons of God looked upon the daughters of men and saw that they were beautiful, that they took all that they wanted, is probably what the translation would come out as. In other words, they started building up their harems. It wasn't good enough for them just to have one wife, or even like the guy back in chapter 4, he had Lamech, who had wives from Ada to Zillah, A to Z. He had 2 wives, so that's probably enough for him, but that wasn't enough. And so even Solomon, think about how many wives and concubines he had. And that would fall into this, 1 Kings chapter 11, verses 1 through 3. See, the sexual or fleshly indulgence. Those are the places where people look for happiness in this world. In Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and verse 2, Solomon introduces us to the word vanity. It's found 37 times in Ecclesiastes. Now, vanity literally means breath. Breath. And it's a metaphor for anything frail or unsatisfying. We talk about a person who's died, they breathe their last breath. Like, that's fragile, isn't it? One breath and you're gone. So you can understand what is meant by vanity. It's something empty, unsatisfying. The phrase vanity of vanities means vanity to the highest degree. And that's what he's finding wherever he goes, because That's what the common perception of the world was at that time. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Well, why would they say that? Well, think for a moment, consider the questions of Jesus in Matthew chapter 16, verse 26. For what will it profit a man if he should gain the whole world and forfeit his own soul? Or what shall a man give in return for his soul? Well, that talks about vanity. Jesus talks about vanity from the other side of it. If you're only living for the things under the sun, S-U-N, then you're living a life of vanity, because it's not going to be satisfying at all. You might have a little bit of happiness here, but you're not going to have happiness for eternity. So Solomon gives us insight as to what the true meaning of life is as he draws conclusions from his observations regarding the mundane cycles of life and his own experiences as he sought out life's meaning through various avenues of the flesh. The vanity of life is observed in the cycles of life. Why do we call it cycles of life? Well, winter, spring, summer, fall, winter, spring, summer, fall. We see that in the spring the grass gets green. Over the summer it dies a little bit. In the fall it finally, it's dying off rapidly. In the winter it's gone. The spring comes and renews everything. Now you might say that sounds a little bit like the Eastern concept of, and I had the word right on my tongue, reincarnation. Okay? It dies and it comes back again. Well, we know that what dies physically really doesn't come back again. Stuff may go dormant for a while, like the grass around here. It go dormant, turn brown, you come back the next year, but it's not a reincarnation to the sense. So there's a weariness of one generation to the next. You think about that, one generation to the next. Ecclesiastes 1:4. A generation goes and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. So, we live and we die, and our children, they live and they die, and the grandchildren, they live and they die, but everything's just, it's just, the earth is there it is. Well, there's a time when people thought the earth was eternal. It didn't have a beginning, it wouldn't have an end, it'd just always be here, and we live on it for a little while, and we're gone, somebody else takes our place. So, we are here on the earth for a short time. And when we die, another one's going to take our place. Whatever that place is, whatever place we've chosen, someone will take it. While this succession goes on, the earth remains unchanged and immovable. And there are places in the scriptures where it talks about the earth being unmovable. But you think about where the earth is. It's sitting out in space. Nothing supporting it. What is supporting it? God. And it's God's hand that makes it immovable. It's God who's going to remove it all someday. So if man was as permanent as the earth seems to be, then there might be a profit to man's labor. If we were going to be here even for 1,000 years, well, then we might want to build barns and build bigger barns and fill it up with stuff because, hey, we're going to be here for a long, long time. Well, to us, when we're maybe 10, 12 years old and we think that 30's old, people are 30 are over the hill, and we get to be 30, it's like, those people that are 70, they are way gone. Then, all of a sudden we get to be 70 and we feel young yet and alive. Then we begin, I just haven't had enough time here. It just hasn't been long enough. I wish there was more that I had done in whatever way. I wish there was something I'd accomplish. And then get to be to the point where all my friends are gone. I just wish I could go too. That takes a long time, but even at that, it's life is so short here upon this earth. So the conclusion of what Solomon is learning in this particular cycle of life is that under the sun, earthly labors are vanity. It's just not going to make a whole bunch of difference. You got to really be famous to get your name in the history books, don't you? How many millions, maybe billions of people have lived? And how many names are in the history books? Not very many. There is the weariness of repetition, and the vanity of life is seen in that. Repetition, repetition, repetition. What are they talking about, Solomon? Verses 5 through 7, Ecclesiastes 1. Listen to what he says. The sun rises, and the sun goes down, and hastens to the place where it rises. That should have told him right there that the earth is round, right? The wind blows to the south and goes around to the north. Around and around goes the wind, and on its circuits the wind returns. Hey, that's how they navigate on the oceans. If the wind only blew one way, what would happen? You have to go clear around the world to get back to where you started from. Columbus discovered that, though. It was there all along, right? And that's important to remember that when we get down to the lesson a little bit further. Verse 7, all streams run to the sea, but the sea is not full. To the place where the streams flow, there they flow again. What's that? That's the water cycle, isn't it? Or the rain cycle, say. Evaporation, condensation flows through, but it's God's way of purifying it a little bit also. Making it fit for use once again. So the sun faces an enduring sameness, rising and setting day by day. But the sun doesn't, right? Well, not really. But there it is. It's there every day. Is the sun going to shine tomorrow? You bet it is. Whether it's cloudy or what, the sun's going to be shining tomorrow until the Lord comes again. All its work merely brings it back to where it started. At least that's the appearance, say. That's the appearance. That's how it appears to us here on this earth. The wind is motion continually repeated with no real progress. Yeah, we put up windmills and stuff. It blows those and keeps those going for a while, but the wind, you can't stop the wind, right? It just goes where it wants to go. Jesus talked about that. The wind is seemingly the freest of all created things, but is still bound by the weariness of repetition. It just goes out here a ways, and it turns around, and it comes back, and it blows through again. We see that in the weather maps, don't we? The rivers flow to the sea evaporates into the clouds go over land, drop its moisture into the rivers over and over again. So viewing things in that way, and viewing them from where Solomon was looking at them under the sun, well then Solomon says nature is nothing but a vicious cycle, the weariness of repetition. There's the weariness of never being satisfied. Rolling Stones do that one, right? I don't get no satisfaction. Oh, they might have been reading this when they come up with the words to that song, or the writer of it. No satisfaction. Ecclesiastes 1:8. All things are full of weariness. A man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. Why? Because we see the same old things and we hear the same old things, right? We experience the same old things. That's just what life is made up of. Oh, how weary that is. The people in Athens that Paul talked to, they wanted to hear new things from around the world. That's what excited them. Doesn't that excite us a little bit also? Hearing about different places, different cultures, it doesn't mean. I love to look at maps, but I like to listen to or watch TV programs that show different places and see the different cultures and all. There's nothing wrong with that, because it is different than what we experience on the day-to-day basis. Man, like nature, is confined to a circle from which he cannot free himself. What is that circle? It's called the earth. It's called the earth. Oh, we tried. We sent men to the moon. Haven't done it for a long time. Why? Why haven't we done that? It just ain't going anywhere else. You know, somebody's got to have some type of a dream to say, oh, well, we need to send people to Mars. Okay, if you want to waste the money on going to Mars, go ahead. Now, I think that a lot of technological advances were made in sending men to the moon. Cell phones, iPads, computers. Yeah, we live in a great time. Yeah, that's what's profited, but yet the original purpose, they didn't find what they thought they were going to find up there, did they? They thought they were going to find evidence of life that existed there before, and they didn't. And they said, there's no reason to go back. It just isn't. So despite all of our labors, man is never truly satisfied. What satisfaction one may think he has obtained is only superficial and fleeting. Yeah, you know, we got a house. It's not a new house, but it's new to us. We're changing stuff. You know why? We're not satisfied. How many times have you done it in your homes? You know, I think I'm going to change this. I'm going to move this over here. I'm just not satisfied with it. Well, you move it a few weeks, maybe a year. You're going to move it again. You know why? Satisfaction changes, right? What satisfies? So it's superficial, it's fleeting. So given time, we as human beings soon desire something else. Man is never satisfied with what he has. But listen, that comes from the spiritual realm. Understand it. It's got to. Proverbs 27:20, Sheol, which is death, or you might even say the grave, and Abaddon. What's Abaddon? That's another name for the devil, isn't it? Are never satisfied, and never satisfied are the eyes of man. See, death is never satisfied. If every human being died, death would still not be satisfied. It's got to be destroyed. And the last enemy to be destroyed is death. Now, then you can have satisfaction, right? And Abaddon, destruction, Satan, the destroyer, see? He knows he's beaten. He knows he can't win. But he doesn't stop trying, does he? He's never satisfied. And he won't be satisfied with just me. He wants everybody. He wants you to the max. Yeah. There's weariness. The weariness of there being nothing new under the sun. Ecclesiastes 1:9-11. What has been is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done, and there is nothing new under the sun. Is there a thing of which it is said, see, this is new? It has been already in the ages before us. There is no remembrance of former things, nor will there be any remembrance of later things yet to be among those who come after. Now, that's what people will say. See that? See what the Bible says? You got the newest iPhone. You seen those iPhone 7s? They're brand new, aren't they? No. They were there before. They were there before. Man's never had anything like that. Solomon says, you missed it somewhere along the line. There was something. There was something there. You realize the technology has always used what God has given us to the fullest extent yet, which to a degree we would say man's not mature enough yet. Now, what the secularist evolutionists would say, we just haven't evolved to that point yet. No, the point is we haven't looked at God's Word. We haven't used God's wisdom like we should have to develop it fully. And it takes time. We understand that, right? You know, you plant a seed over here, it grows into a tree, and it doesn't produce fruit for maybe 2 or 3 years. But then when it produces fruit, it takes some time to produce that fruit. And that's the way it is with our lives. But once again, here we are. We think, we just do great things. Who built the pyramids? Those are great things, weren't they? We're still mystified how they did it. Now, they did it, but we don't know how. We don't know how much wisdom, how much knowledge was destroyed when the library in Alexandria, Egypt, was burned. We just don't. So here we are. What do we do? We're just muddling through, aren't we? We're muddling through. History tends to repeat itself. New is typically because we have forgotten what occurred before. What about our modern technological advances? Pyramids. Mummification. How in the world did they do that? I think it's still beyond our understanding. We try to do things to preserve the bodies, but at best, it's not like what they could do. So given time, future generations will forget what we're doing today and only rediscover what had been learned again and again throughout the course of human history. The vanity of striving for earthly wisdom and knowledge. And this is where Solomon kind of takes a turn, because he's actually examining and looking at himself and saying, what I'm doing is vain. What I'm doing is going to serve hardly any purpose. Why? Because the answer's already there. The answer's already there, and people have been telling him this answer beforehand, but still, he's got to go off and he's got to go in that circle and come back to, well, the answer was right there before me the whole time. So what does he say here? Verses 12 through 15. I, the preacher, have been king over Israel and Jerusalem, and I applied my heart to seek and to search out by wisdom all that is done under heaven. It is an unhappy business that God has given to the children of man to be busy with. Wonder why? It was called the fall, wasn't it? When man was moved out of paradise into a world of thorns and thistles and hard work. Because before God provided everything, the work wasn't very hard. Just tend the garden. Just keep it and be happy. It is an unhappy business that God has given to the children of man to be busy with. I have seen everything that is done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity and striving after wind. What is crooked cannot be made straight, and what is lacking cannot be counted. I told you last week, that kind of serves as the thesis sentence for this whole sermon that Solomon's preaching. This world cannot be made right. It cannot be straightened out. It has to be made new. Made new in the sense of what Christ is going to make when he comes back. This is all going to be gone. There'll be a new heavens and a new earth. What is lacking cannot be counted. What's lacking here? Spiritual wisdom. God grants it, but most people don't even look for it. So Solomon gave special effort to the gaining of all the knowledge he possibly could. He wanted to understand it. He wanted to understand it like God understands it without really asking God, what's this all about? How does this happen? He needed to find it out on his own. So he was especially equipped for this because God had given him great wisdom as a gift. He should have asked for God, even more so. His conclusion then, under the sun, all is vanity and a striving after wind. Solomon applied his wisdom as, hey, we should approach things in a wise way, but we're not truly wise unless we have an understanding of God's Word. a knowledge of God's Word. Verse 16 and the first part of verse 17, I said in my heart. Now this is Solomon talking about himself. I have acquired great wisdom, surpassing all who were over Jerusalem before me, and my heart has had great experience of wisdom and knowledge, and I applied my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly. In other words, he wasn't going to learn by the mistakes that others had made before him. He was going to multiply. And he did. You know, David had, what, 3, 4 wives? When it's all taken into account, 3 or 4? How many Solomon had? He didn't learn by the mistake that his father made, the seeds of destruction that were sown in his own family because of it. And he ends up making these mistakes with his children. His son Rehoboam pretty much destroys Israel, except for God stepping in, intervening, beginning the process of getting it straightened out. He gave himself to philosophy, all in search of the true meaning of life. But philosophy, understand this, under the sun. Under the sun, right here in the world. Forget about God. We want to see what this is about. Solomon's conclusion concerning human wisdom, last part of verse 17, first part of verse 18, I perceive that this also is but a striving after wind. He said, I'm doing this and this is foolishness. I'm doing this and this is vanity. How can you start off with a premise like that? I'm going to do something foolish. I'm going to pursue this. You understand? So right off the bat. For in much wisdom is much vexation, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow. The more you know, the more pain and suffering you're going to have. It might be. And then again, it may not be. But under the sun it is, right? Under the sun. Well, Solomon concluded that attaining human wisdom was like grasping for the wind. And can you imagine somebody trying to understand airplanes 2,000 years ago? Boy, that blew their mind, wouldn't it? It did not provide the answer to the problem. Human wisdom did not supply the answer to it. And it won't today either, will it? Look what a mess our world is in because we've kicked God out of the schools, out of the government, and pretty much out of the churches. Solomon also realized that such wisdom caused only grief and sorrow. The more wisdom and understanding of men that we acquire, the more we see its unsatisfactory nature. It just doesn't satisfy us. It can, because I'm going to talk about kolia, the colon. You know what the colon is? It comes from the Greek word kolia. It's that big empty space in here that we try to fill up with food. And sometimes, and if that doesn't satisfy us, well, we fill it up with alcohol, we fill it up with drugs, we fill it up with other stuff. And it goes in, it goes out. It's that's never satisfied, is it? It doesn't stay satisfied. And that's the way. There's this big empty space in our soul where God belongs. And when we kick him out, there's nothing we can do to be satisfied in any way, shape, whether it's earthly or whether it's spiritual. God has to be the one to fill it up. So that's what he's coming to. One becomes a burden. One becomes a burden as they learn the things of life. The things that we have no control over are the things we often worry about. I have no control over what's going to happen in the Middle East. I can pray about it, but I can't do anything about So why am I going to worry about it? Who has to worry about it? Those people up in Washington, right? Those people who think that they have all the answers. They haven't had an answer for, see, 600 to 2,000. That's 1,400 years. No answer. And there was no answer before that, was there? In human terms, under the sun. God has the answer. God has it. Just men don't accept it. So Solomon's search for the true meaning of life began with wisdom. He set his heart to know wisdom, and he found such wisdom to be a striving after wind. There's the wind. Catch it. Grab a hold of it. Did you feel it go by? I felt that. I just can't feel it. The true meaning of life is not found in human wisdom. Okay? The true meaning of life is not found under the S-U-N. It is found in the S-O-N. Just plain and simple. That's the answer. That's God's answer. Jesus Christ is God's answer to satisfying us. And that's what the New Testament tells us. Satisfaction. Of being satisfied with God in spite of all the turmoil here, in spite of all the bad things that happened with us, being satisfied with God that He is in control and He's going to make everything all right if we will trust and obey. Lesson here. Listen, we have a need tonight, whatever, with a special prayer that's needed, whatever. Let your request be made known. Stand and sing the invitation.